analysis, a dynamic presentation. At the end, he said, I want reparations. But that ain't all I want. I want blood. And all of those students rose up as if they wanted some blood too. So the leadership of the students started to quake and shake even more, because now if this got to action more, can't be in trouble. And of course the white man was there, taking notes and getting his mind prepared to participate. But Marie opened up before the student panel, she opened up the conference. And she said it's about healing, it's about family, it's about us. It's about them, but not them in the middle of what we're doing. Because she didn't realize that this white fellow had been brought into the picture. But she made an announcement at that station. Once she heard that the white professor had been brought into the picture, Sister Marie could not control herself. She was walking back and forth. She had her hands on her hips. She was holding her head. She just didn't know what to do. And so the spirit just jumped up out of her. And when they had the fellow present at the end, I told him, just put me last. No matter what you do, he ain't going to balance me out. You don't know what my balance is. Put me last. And that'll take care of stuff. But she confronted him after he spoke and said, you're not supposed to be here. He said, what do you mean? I've been invited. She said, this is an African People's Reparations Forum. And whatever your constitution is, it's not proper here. Well, I've been invited. So the young student leader was near her. So she looked at him and said, tell him that he was invited, because if you didn't put him in, it would destroy the program. So this young student leader didn't know what to do. I mean, he was fit to be died now. He's caught between Morehouse leadership, a black reparations expert, and the spirit of Reparations. And she was not going to let her spirit rest. He pulled her to the side. Said, Professor Ani, because she said, tell the white man that you were going to lose your program. And so he said, no, we weren't. But he pulled her to the side and said, we weren't going to lose the program. They still were going to let us have the program if we didn't put them on. But they wouldn't fund us for next year. So she said, why are you whispering this to me? Tell him what to do. So she dragged him over here. So he had to tell the white man that the deal was, if we didn't put you in, they weren't going to fund us for next year. So we couldn't make it a regular part of our activity. So then he was still quaking. So Marissa tried to give him some spirit. She said to him, young man, are you going to come with me and my spirit of African renewal, or are you going to try to make this white man comfortable? And of course he didn't know what to do. By that time they were calling us to, because I was ready to present, so that broke the conversation. And of course, I can't puff myself up, but Dr. J came out of his bag of African spiritual tricks. And I told the students, they said, Dr. J, they're waiting for you. I said, no, I'm not ready to go. But if you're ready to go, I said, no, we got to go back up to my room. I got to get out of the black. I got to get into the green. It's about renewal. It's about rebirth. I got to get into different spiritual dimensions. The student couldn't believe it, that I'm leaving where I'm supposed to be going upstairs to get into a whole other spiritual thing, which I did. And when I came down, I was ready to go. Marie said it was the most brilliant thing she's ever seen me do, because she left the audience and ran and grabbed me when it was over. She said, you did it, you did it, you did it. Students, after we finished, it was in the gym. So there was clapping, the normal clap, but then they started jumping on the bleachers. So it was as if the place had exploded. What happened was, the African spirit hit me, and when I'm in Georgia, I always have to raise my grandfather, because he was born and raised in Georgia, built his family in Georgia, 13 kids. My father was last of the Jeffries, and I can't even mention him without tears coming. But at this time, it was difficult. Because Marimba, at the end of her presentation, which you know is fantastic, you're talking about Yoruba, the European disease that's messing with the Asili, the African creativity.
Right.
And here we had a perfect example of it happening right in our midst. She had presented it, but didn't know that it was happening. And here it's being worked out with all this brilliant black students, young men and women, and we were working it out right there. At the end of her presentation, she showed the lynching of black men and women with the music of bitter fruit. Really powerful. Now you know that riveted me because I talk about my grandfather being lynched by the Klan in 1917. And I never knew him. My father didn't know him because at 3, the family left Georgia in 1919 when the cotton crop failed for 2 years. So my grandfather has been a part of my life. But when I discovered him, he has been a part of my life because he looked like me. And then when I discovered him, born in 1868, right after the so-called Civil War, and his big brother born in 1865 in slavery. And when I realized he did all he did against all of the odds that were stacked against black folk after the Civil War, when they were trying to put us back into semi-slavery. But still he built, still he rose, and he rose with his people out of the red clay of Georgia. So whenever I'm in trouble, like, you know, the big thing came down 10 years ago, I flash back on my grandfather. If he could come out of Georgia with the rise of the Klan, the old Klan, and then being killed by the new Klan when it rose in 1915, and he could build with the little that they had, I certainly can survive any trials and tribulations.
Yes.
But I had never.
Yes.
But I had never seen him hanging from a limb in my mind's eye. But when she showed those pictures of black men, women hanging from the limbs of trees, I saw my grandfather. So when I got ready to talk, the normal tears that would come became a river.
Yes.
And I'm trying to find some tissue. Some big brother out of the audience comes with some tissue. Once that happened, all of us was together as a family. Hundreds of us. No matter what the complex, no matter what the idea. And this white man sitting down here was pushed out of the picture. So I told him, I said, this is what it's about. It's the African healing and spirituality. You're not a part of this. If at some day you want to have a esoteric discussion, the legal aspects of enslavement with Isa Hilliard, myself, and others, we can arrange that, but you're not a part of it. But what you will be able to do is bear witness to what was happening. And he could see that all the folks were with me in tears of joy that we had arrived at this point and had survived and were thriving, if you will, against these odds. And he did not fit in this picture. The presentation that was made didn't even deal with slavery. It dealt with post-slavery. I take it for granted that based upon what slavery was, we're going to get reparations. That's just a given. There's no discussion of that. But what we have to show is that the system continued its wickedness right up to today. Right. And the prison system is a new slavery. For War of Victorious Past, I say it all the time. Those things have a chance to see and learn and listen on how you handle these situations. But they still worry about repercussions. Because Morehouse went to the extent of taking one of their most brilliant scholars, Andreas Woods, coming up out of ASCAC organization, taught by Dr. Mario Beatty, one of the ASCAC young men, who was taught by Dr. Theodore Wenger, who was brought into America by Dr. Molecular Science. So one of our young has produced a brilliant scholar out of Morehouse, and he graduated 4.0. He's going on to Brown to do his PhD on the mathematics of ancient Egypt. You ain't gonna get nothing better than that. You don't want nothing better than that.